Hello again, and welcome to another installment of Erin's Book Club. I know it's been forever since I've done another book club, but the book I was reading was a really big one, and again, I don't read very quickly. First and foremost, I'm going to say that this is going to be an unashamedly biased book report, because I had the great pleasure of reading The Stand by Stephen King, and Stephen King happens to me my all-time favorite author. He is somebody that I have read from as earliest as I've ever remembered reading was Stephen King. He was the guy. And his earlier stuff has always been one that's been fascinating me. He seems to do a real study and research into each and every one of his projects, and he really makes you believe and go for the character, be it good or bad. He just seems to take you by the hand and take you through his world, and without you even noticing it, he's put you in this web where you are there with each and every character, and no matter how evil his bad guy is, there's a way to find some sympathy with him. And this book is really no exception. Now, this is the book that is the unedited version. Apparently they had done a version before this where they had to take a fair amount of content out. And I honestly haven't read that version, but I think it would really be a shame to lose some of the content in this book. Basically, this book is a case study of human behavior in the long run. It's a case study of human behavior under stress, it's a case study of human behavior under crisis, and it's a case study of what human behavior does after, and how and if we learn from crisis. The premise of the book is that we have created a kind of super flu, and this super flu has killed most of the population of the Earth. And let me go there by saying this is where Stephen King really shines, because I don't know who he spoke to or what research he did, but he got every detail necessary to make you believe that this flu is not only realistic but attainable and could happen here, and yet not make it something that is ongoing and drawn out. And he was able to create the devastating effects of this flu and hit you hard with it, and then continue you on past the story. I like how he takes each character, kind of jumbles them all up and puts them in together. And your weakest characters, the ones that you really don't think are going to go very far, tend to grow the strongest and tend to do the best in the story. Now, a classic Stephen King thing that he does in his books is he finds the most innocent character, the most humble character, the one that you just want to love, and he spends a good portion of the story stroking that and making you believe that, hey, look at this guy, he's just such an honest guy, he's just such a great character, and then he takes that guy and kills him. Like, yeah, you loved him, now he's dead. And I think that's something that Stephen King enjoyed. And so there is a character in this book that is very simple-minded but very good, and throughout the entire book I'm like, well, I don't want to get attached to him because he's going to die. And spoiler alert, it doesn't end the way that you think it's going to end. And the character that he seems to beat up on throughout the entire book from the get-go, like, you meet this character and he's getting beat up on, he just doesn't get a good end. And I don't think that his death was very good. It was kind of passed over. I think that it should have been more heroic than what it was, especially for what the character was. Now, I'm trying to go through this without trying to spoil it too much, because definitely a book that you should read. It's one of my favorite books now that I've read it. And eventually, one day, I will have every one of Stephen King's works. And I've got a good collection, but I need more. I also like how, in the end, the book doesn't really give you a conclusion. It kind of throws it in your face. It's kind of like, yeah, the main crisis is over, but is it really? And the one criticism, and there's not many criticisms with Stephen King, because again, I adore this man, but the one criticism I do have to say about this is we spend the entire book, and I mean, look at the book. It's a big book. So you spend the entire book building up to, well, this is the after effects of the flu. There's only this amount surviving. Now we've got our good symbols of good and our good symbols of evil, and now they're fighting at each other. And how are we going to fight and win each other, and who's going to win? And the whole book is on preparing for the two of them to fight for this great big war between good and evil. The problem is, before they even make major contact with the big evil character, the big good character dies. Like, kind of, first of all, she says, okay, well, we need to go to this land. They go to this land. She's like, yeah, now I'm going to go off into the woods because I think I failed God, so I'm going to go off into the woods and meditate, or whatever she does. And she comes back just in time to die. So while she's gone, the rest of the society creates a society without her and governs her society without her. And then she comes back long enough to say, well, I didn't bring you here to run a society. I didn't bring you here to start this. What I brought you here was for you guys to go and get this bad man. So that kind of sat wrong. And then so we go into the chapter of, now we're on this quest to go see the bad man, and you're expecting some great big battle, some great big war, and there really isn't a great big battle, there really isn't a great big war, and the very people that are sent to destroy the man don't really do their job. It was kind of a waste. And maybe that was the whole principle of it. Maybe that was the whole concept of it. But that kind of sat wrong. It was almost like that ending was too easy. There wasn't enough effort into it to lead up to that. It was almost anticlimactic. It was you expected more, which for Stephen King, for one of his earlier works, is strange. Usually I'm gaga throughout the entire book. Now that's only a small portion, because the rest of the book was it was a great study in human behavior. I adored the concept. Again, I'm right into diseases and that kind of thing, so that really went up my alley. But all in all, phenomenal book. I think this book should be on everybody's bookshelf. If nothing else, to see one man's view of what the world is really like. Stephen King, king of all authors in my book, in my books. Awesome book. I definitely recommend it. I think you should go out and get the unedited version. Really good book. Very good read. Loved it. Now, it's going to be a little bit before I do my next book club review, because I have let my magazines fall behind because I was reading the Great Big Book. So I am going to read my magazines, and then I'm going to read Gulliver's Travels, which I know is another fiction book, but it was a gift of mine given to me by a friend for my birthday, and I'm desperate to read it. So you guys probably won't hear from me again for a while, but again, loved the book. I really think that I'm going to do some more Stephen King reviews, and anybody who likes the thriller horror genre, read the books before you even attempt to view the movies of any of Stephen King. Read the book first. Thanks, guys.